Hello, and welcome to GigaOm Live. I am your host, Johnny Baldisberger, and today I am joined by analyst Enrico Signoretti and Jason Collier. Now, on this show, we talk about the tech news of the week. We'll discuss some of the new research that GigaOm has been putting out in the last week, and it's been kind of a little bit crazy, so we have a lot to talk about. This is a live show, so if you would like to interact with us, you can type in the chat, type questions, comments, compliments about my beard, whatever you want to do to interact. We're happy to have you. As always, we're going to start with fashion. You are back in your Atari shirt, Enrico. Always looking better. I try to switch between dressing nice like Enrico and dressing like an Austin developer like Jason. And I'm of course wearing my nerdy Pride shirt today to celebrate Pride Month. So with
Yeah,
all
I have to improve my wardrobe somehow. That's what
you're
because
already
I started buying white shirts and only white shirts because it's just easy when you travel. So it's easier. You can have it with them with every kind of pant, color pant, and jacket. So that was my way to go when I was traveling. Now I'm not traveling. I could buy different shirts and t-shirts. Right?
this is a showcase of what the tech industry dresses like. You have your presenters, and
Yeah.
then you have your people behind the computers who, frankly, like either they have as you can see, a guitar back there or a bunch of sticky notes.
the uh, my CEO at the last company, whenever we would go out and present, and I would typically dress like this, other than wearing my cowboy hat and brown jacket, which
Yeah.
is cowboy hats back there, right? And so there was one particular presentation where they asked the CEO, like, do you ever make him like adhere to a dress code? And then and Jeff said, he's like, I'm just happy he's wearing pants. so so that's as far as we took dress code.
Man, you should have seen the difference when I went from waiting as a line cook to waiting as a chef. Or not waiting, sorry, cooking as a chef. It's like, wait, I have to wear a jacket now? Dang. All right, enough of fashion. That's not actually what we're here to talk about. Sorry for misleading everyone. Fairly light news week this week. We only have two items. The first, let's talk about WWDC. I was trying to make a fun "what would so and so do" pun there, but I failed. I just didn't have enough time to think of it. I apologize. But that is the Apple Developer Conference. What news? What excitement? And is there been any kind of important developments around this event?
Well, I think first of all we have to talk about this because everybody else talking about it. Why not? But no, actually I found a couple of interesting things in this. One was about all the features that they are adding to the Apple Watch. I mean, this is becoming more and more of a um, the center of your life if you are in the Apple ecosystem, of course. So it's used for many more things. They're adding also the feature to open the door of your car and a lot of small details. I think that and the device is becoming really really cool. I don't like the fact that still the battery is less than 2 days. That's the worst part of this object. But for the rest, I mean, it's amazing what they are doing.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, two things that really stuck out to me is Apple is leading the charge by far of anybody on the privacy front and what people have access to. The basically integrating the privacy features further into Mail and Safari. Um, like advertisers are going to be mad, right? With the level of privacy restrictions they're putting in there to make it to where it's going to be a lot harder for this cross site object tracking and all that stuff. So from a security perspective, I absolutely love what they're doing with that. And kind of to tag on to your watch thing, another thing that I really notice is how they're extending what kind of started out with the Apple Pay and stuff like that on the phone. They're taking that to that wallet concept even further, to the point, like you said, you're going to have the ability to use it as your keys to basically get into your car, to get into your house. Like, all these have been coming in little waves, and now in the U.S., one of the things they're doing, and they're actually working with TSA, to where they're going to have government issued IDs that are going to be able to be on your phone, right?
Yeah.
So when you go to the airport, no longer do you need to take your passport, driver's license, anything like that. It's going to be, you take your phone, and they're able to. And interestingly enough, this kind of taps back to their privacy. When they scan it, it tells you what information they're accessing. So it's giving you much more control over the information that you're letting people have access to from a privacy perspective. And then also it kind of is giving you an audit trail to let you know what information has been accessed about you. So I think that's pretty fascinating where they're taking it.
Yeah, in general, I think they're doing a great job, not only in this, but actually, on the overall ecosystem, and the fact that they are opening a little bit, but not that much, like the FaceTime, things like that. So they just, I think it's a bait. The fact that they are making FaceTime a little bit more accessible, because they show that what you can get, and that. And I mean, from this point of view, it's pretty smart move. I don't know how play out the saga around the App Store and the 30% cut in the long term, but actually, I mean, I'm not honestly uh, against a cut on the revenues on the App Store. Somehow, I'm against the fact that some services are sold on the App Store with payment system that are on the App Store, and not really about apps, about digital content. I mean,
Yeah.
today was in the news, there was a website that has, of course, an app, and they can make money, so that their creators can make money out of this app. But actually, is it fair that you ask 30% to not a YouTuber, but somebody that built something on this app, and to show, I mean, to create something, and I don't really know. It's probably it's too much.
The It would be interesting if there was a little bit more competition in that space. Overall, 30%'s kind of that's been the standard take. That's what it was for doing audio as well. They take 30% of the cut on audio. And I think they just kind of, nobody really done the digital distribution when they came out with App Store. So they just kind of rolled it into, hey, it's 30% because that's what we're charging for music. So that said, though, when you think about software distribution and how that's one of those areas where, man, that's changed so much in the time we've been in IT, Enrico, that's for sure. I mean, remember when you used to go to, like, if you wanted to buy software, you went to a bookstore and you'd buy like boxed floppy disks, right? And when you think about that, I mean, man, distribution of that was expensive. You had to sell stuff, you had to ship stuff, you had to I mean, honestly, distribution costs of that, developers would be lucky if they would get 30%. So when you look at the digital distribution, it's kind of a flip flop now, where they get 70% of the revenues. Overall, it's still pretty good. And then there's still a lot of, advertising subsidized, definitely games that are on the App Store. But yeah.
So, with that, let's go ahead and move on to our next little bit. Now, I am attempting to understand crypto, and yeah, this is finances, my bane. But I also, it's something I want to understand. I want to understand how it works. I've listened to podcasts, I've listened to smart people describe it, I've listened to idiots describe it too, which not as helpful as I was hoping. you see apps pop up that let you trade in crypto. Uh, I thought about spending, putting $1 down and buying 4 Dogecoin because the dollar, it's. But at the same time, like a Bitcoin, I think last time I checked was valued at 37,000 per USD per one Bitcoin. So the question is, the news is Chia Space crypto mining puts Seagate disk drive revenues in a spin. Uh, and the question posed by Enrico is Chia actually going to make money off crypto?
Well, not Chia, but maybe Seagate.
Oh, sorry,
I mean,
Seagate. Yes.
so of course, this is a different kind of crypto, and it's very interesting because it doesn't use the GPUs or specialized ASICs to make it work. So it's a different algorithm in backend, and you have to store the information permanently in your disk. There are quite large blocks of information, and so you need space. And of course, you can be rewarded when this information is requested back with this Chia coins. That said, I read the news that not long ago it was already so the network was already counting more than 6 exabyte of actually used capacity for storing this piece of information. So it's growing like crazy. I mean, it was launched 2 months ago, something like that, and this is driving up sales. Actually, Seagate as a line of hard drives that are designed, and more products will come out with uh, with this in mind. And we discussed this not long ago about this was a very good moment for Nvidia. Now it's too much, but at that time was Nvidia, AMD, and others, made a fortune out of cryptocurrencies, and so why not discs? I mean, that's good. Also because the hard disk drive market is dying, and this is a use case for which the hard disk could be really compelling.
Yeah, I think it's actually fascinating. Like Seagate's CFO came out, they increased their revenue forecast, and one of the reasons, like, one, they're doing good. They're doing good, generally, and the cloud and the enterprise OEM side, but also specifically the increase in crypto farming demand, right? So they up the revenue forecast, and correlation doesn't always equal causation, but the correlation of basically this crypto coming out that is a very, that's good for disk drive manufacturers, and then they, come and say that, yeah, they're increasing the revenue forecast. That's good thing for them, right? So good for Seagate. And I'm sure Western Digital and the other guys too are probably uh, in a similar boat.
Well, if you think that this one is much more eco-friendly than others. I mean,
Mm.
and in some countries like Italy, for example, where the cost of power is very high. I mean, doing crypto mining, it doesn't make any sense, especially for somebody like me with one or two GPUs running. You can make any money, especially with I'm not sure about Ethereum, but 99% with Bitcoin, it's very difficult. So it's more the money that you spend that you can earn from this activity. While with Chia, you don't need a lot of CPU, you don't need a lot of and as any other cryptocurrency at the very beginning, it's easier to get rewarded. So mechanisms are pretty simple yet, but they will have their pooling, they will have all their mechanisms to reinforce the crypto mining, the crypto farms, and things like that. But at the moment, you could be also very lucky and get some money. So this is also why people are trying at home with their old hard drives. I have a tray full of hard drives. I could
Mm.
I thought about it, but actually, at the moment, I'm here with my old safe. You see, I'm trying to hacking my old, and so I don't have time also for this one, and so I'm more in the microcontrollers at the moment. Nothing to do with. I'm sorry. And so the idea here is that I'm spending much more money than I should, just to repair an old safe. But it's fun. It's
Yeah,
the classic nerdy thing that
yeah.
people has to.
Well, too, like when we're talking about on the basically the power consumption, like you said, like so. Now is the average hard drive consumes about, I mean, it's about 15 watts
Mhm.
of power, whereas your latest NVIDIA RTX like 3080 is 320 watts. Right, you stick three of those together and you've got as much as like an electric space heater
Mhm.
sitting in a room, right? That's a lot of power, and a lot of power and a lot of heat to dissipate. So yeah, it's interesting where Chia is going, and like glad for the hard drive manufacturers. They and this is one of those things too. This is not necessarily, I mean, clearly it works on SSDs, but this is also like good old spinning rust, right? As
Yeah,
we like to call it these days. It works fine on spinning hard drives. It's not really any type of there's
yeah. I'm
nothing.
I'm not really familiar with the mechanism, but I'm sure it's a mix of SSDs to to the
Yeah,
complete part at the beginning, and then long
this
term.
the long-term storage. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's pretty interesting.
So, um, I am tired of discussing non GigaOm related news. We, for those of you who don't know, I am the production manager over at GigaOm, which means that everything that you see that we create goes through my terrible shaky hands before it sees the light of day. What this means is that occasionally on a Friday evening, just as I'm getting dressed up to go out with my family, I'll get an email from our head of editing saying, "Hey, can we take these 4 reports live?" And that's what happened last Friday. So we had a ton of research come out, and since we last met, and I want to tell you about it and maybe discuss a little bit of that research. So let me just go down the line real quick and tell you that we have published the key criteria for evaluating master data management from William McKnight and Jake Dolezal. I'm actually pretty excited about this report, by the way, because it's the very first key criteria report that William and Jake have written. They generally handle a lot of our benchmarks and TCO reports. Speaking of which, they did in a few minutes, actually, in about an hour and a half, we'll be going live with a new benchmark report called "The Cost Saving of Replacing Kafka with Pulsar." So that look for that in the next couple of hours. We also have the key criteria for evaluating secure service access with Chris Grundeman and Ivan McPhee heading that report. The key criteria for evaluating file-based cloud storage from Enrico and Max Mortillo.
Mortillaro.
Yeah,
Difficult.
I typoed his name, so I can only see it if I can read it directly. And you have another report that came out, the GigaOm Radar for Hybrid Cloud Data Protection for Small and Medium-Sized Businesses, soon to be followed by Ditto for Enterprises. And we had a new BTI report from John Collins called "Closing the Gap Between Low Code and Testing." Now, on top of all of this, Enrico, you and I met yesterday and recorded a episode of the podcast Voices in Innovation discussing file-based cloud storage. Could you tell us what I'm laughing because the general population doesn't know the drama surrounding some of these reports. The we broke the hybrid cloud data protection radars into two parts. Why are small to medium sized businesses and enterprise, why are they different enough to have two separate reports?
Yeah, I mean, for this particular report, so the cloud file storage, it will be a technology categorization. But in general, we have a categorization that is based on the size of the company, so small, medium, and large enterprises. And the idea is to have this categorization because not all the enterprises have the same identical needs. Okay, so what is really important for the large enterprise usually is not really important for the small company. And so a small company want to avoid complexity. They don't have needs of multi-tenancy most of the case. So they are simpler solution, and they look more at the cost and keep it simple, manageable than a broader feature set that could make the difference in large organization that has to cover many more use cases, and they have many more regulations and stuff. So the idea is that to try to find the right balance. Look, the key criteria is mostly the same, but actually, if you are in a small organization, the weight of this key criteria could be different. And when we decide to do the categorization for a technical reason, is just because there is a little bit of confusion in the market. Sometimes, for example, with the cloud file storage, okay, there is already the definition of cloud file storage is not always easy, but when we start talking about cloud file storage and you start looking at how you do cloud file storage, there are two main aspects of it. One is when servers access this file storage, so it's more about scale out workloads that are in the range of HPC, AI, and so on. Even lift and shift workloads, but quantity of data is quite important. And then you have distributed file storage that is more in the realm of collaboration, accessing file remotely from different location. It's not that there isn't an overlap. I mean, if you have to share some file between people, all of the two works. And if you have to share files between servers, they work as well. Okay, so there is an overlap, but we want to be sure to address perfectly the two market landscapes. So who are the players that can win in one of these, and who are the players that you can see in the other one. So you have a clear there. It's like a magnification. It's like giving you a detailed view of what we are looking at.
Fantastic, thank you. Now, Jason, you didn't write any of these reports, but I want to include you. I want to ask you a question too, so you don't feel left out.
Okay, thanks, Johnny. I appreciate that.
We have the GigaOm radar for hybrid cloud data protection. We have the key criteria for evaluating secure service access, and we have the key criteria for evaluating master data management. This all sounds like security and privacy stuff. Why? I understand why privacy and security are so important. Why do we need to write so many reports on? Why are the threats evolving that quickly? Are they that varied?
Ask the guys of the Colonial Pipeline.
There you have it. Our official stance is ask someone else.
There's a buddy of mine. He's actually got a really interesting company that's it's in the security space, and they do some really, really interesting stuff. And they actually are tracking nation state attacks where they can do kind of detection of like basically penetration and shut down segments of a network, right? And they're primarily universities and government organizations where are their customers. He gave me some very interesting statistics on like nation state attacks and certain, I'm not going to name any names here, but there are certain nation states that once an attack happens, could be an intern clicks on a phishing email, within 18 minutes, they have the capacity to basically hack lateral systems within that network and start basically to penetrate into that. And you start seeing that, with things like that Colonial Pipeline attack. And then there was basically the, U.S. recently, it was like, the meat industry was hit, right? And there's all kinds of it's critically important, right? And the more and more dependent that the world becomes on information and the flow of information, the more critical it is to basically secure that. We're in a position now in the world where a majority of the dollars being generated by most economies have everything to do with an information economy and not necessarily the physical goods and services that are produced, but it's the information that's kind of the king. So keeping that secure is it's a critical piece, and it's one of those things that a lot of organizations will. It's an afterthought. It's not necessarily always thought of as when you're going and building out something new. It's kind of the afterthought is where security hits. And I think the reason that you're seeing a lot of the security style of reports that we write out there is a lot of organizations are starting to think about security first. And I think that's a right method for thinking about this, and it's actually good to see it changing because, like I said, the more dependent organizations are on the information, the more critical it is to keep that secure.
Absolutely. Far be it for me to plug some other show on our show, but I want to shout out. I learned a lot about the nature of security and the terrifying nature of insecurity through a podcast called Darknet Diaries. Really engaging, really interesting interviews and storytelling based on true stories from security threats and on the other side of how people have addressed these things and helped make things more secure. However, if you're only going to subscribe to one podcast, make it Voices and Innovation from GigaOm, where I interview analysts like Enrico about their reports and about these new technologies. We have some webinars coming up very quickly, starting next week. In fact, on the 16th, Andrew Brust is going to meet with Equalum for a webinar entitled Modernize Your Data Pipelines with Multimodal Change Data Capture. Guys, I can't wait for this webinar so I can stop saying that title. Andrew Brust... It's also going to be interesting, but boy howdy, that's a mouthful. Andrew Brust has one the following week on the 22nd called Machine Learning, Production Grade, and Industry Strength, which will be really fascinating. And Enrico, I'm actually really excited about your webinar on the 24th, Understanding Cloud Backup and Best Practices. Whenever I hear the term best practices, my ears perk up, because I think of best practices as kind of being that tagline to, like, if you take nothing else from this is what you need. So I think that's going to be a really fascinating and really useful webinar for a lot of people. Very excited about all of those. You can find all of those and sign up for all of those at GigaOm.com. You can listen to our podcast, Voice and Innovation. You can find our reports. You can find our blog post. Really, you can find all kinds of fascinating, interesting things on GigaOm.com, including you can look at all our analysts and see what sort of research we're doing, and contact our sales team if you need to get in touch with one of these analysts and maybe get some research done for yourself. Really, for all of your future forward advice, GigaOm.com is the place to be. Now, that's all the time we have. If you want to continue this conversation, ask questions, or just kind of get a peek behind the curtain into the mind of Jason Collier, don't recommend that, but you can by following him on Twitter at Bocanuts. You can also follow Enrico at Signoretti. They're both on LinkedIn as well. Enrico, I know sometimes you post some pretty poignant stuff Phil was telling me about the other day, so Make sure you're following these guys. You can also follow GigaOm at GigaOm on Twitter, or come to our website, gigaom.com. Oh, let me take a deep breath as I have talked for too long straight and too quickly. It's been a great week. Like I said, we had a ton of research published, so check that out. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
And from all of us at GigaOm, have